Ithaca police officers were dispatched to Ithaca High School after the principal reported there had been some fighting between students.
This call came in around 11:30 Friday morning. There was fighting amongst a group of white rural kids and some inner-city black youth. Several parents and community leaders were also called to the school alongside police.
And when we arrived, there were about 20 students white students dressed in camouflage, lined up, against a wall.
Friday's fighting wasn't the first racially motivated event at Ithaca High this week. On Wednesday, the school was put on lockdown.
The state fair ended on a sour note last night after yet another outbreak of violence. And today, police fear that the string of assaults may be race-related.
2 officers were injured and 5 people were arrested last night, marking the 3rd time that a large group of young black people were involved in assaults in or around the fairgrounds.
We had reports that these juveniles were attempting to assault white citizens.
What we've got to realize is that there is a war going on right now in which people are being killed.
We have an aging white America. They're dying. It's a matter of time. The explosion is in our population.
It reminded me of Paul Revere when he was saying, the British are coming, the British are coming. Well, the Latinos are coming, the Latinos are coming.
Can't stop us. There's too many of us. We're ready. We're breeding by the day. You think we have kids because we like sex? No, we're having kids ready to start this war. Believe me. I got another one on the way, and she'll be strapped up ready for you. Come get it. We're ready. We're ready. Ashe, Mutaku Ashe.
This is a PDF you can search for on Google. It's US Peace Index 2011. The lighter the state, the more peaceful. Here is a map over the diversity in America. And as you can see, the more diverse the society or the state, the less peaceful it is.
Sweden's 3rd largest city, Malmö, sits just across the water from Copenhagen, Denmark. Massive immigration has made Malmö today 1/4 Muslim and stands to transform it into a Muslim-majority city within just a few decades. One of the most popular baby names is not Sven, but Mohammed. Pork has been taken off some school menus. Want to learn to drive? Here's Malmö's own Jihad Driving School. And despite Malmö's usually placid appearance, this experiment in multiculturalism has not gone well. This is the Rosengård area of Malmö, a housing project where the radicalization and crime have exploded, and fire and emergency workers will no longer enter without police protection. An immigrant-fueled crime wave affects 1 of every 3 Malmö families each year. The number of rapes has tripled in 20 years. And the crime wave has only accelerated a Swedish version of white flight from the city.
I was there for a demonstration, a pro-Israeli demonstration with about 400 or 500 people, Jews, non-Jews, and I came over to cover it. The police allowed these, say, 100 Palestinians and Arabs to shout and threaten and throw bombs and rockets at us. A homemade bomb landed about 10 yards from me, went off with a big bang, and I thought, well, now the police, of course, is going to jump these guys, get them out of the way. They didn't.
Swede Ted Ekeroth helped film the Arab left counter-demonstrations. He saw Arabs throwing rocks at a 90-year-old Holocaust survivor.
Hopefully you can show some of the clips from our manifestation for Israel, which is always peaceful and always with a message of peace. And theirs is always the quite opposite: death, hate, and killing of Jews.
Scuffles broke out between Asians and whites, and this shocking attack ended in a brutal stabbing. She's been stabbed. Who found themselves confronted by the anger of Asian youths.
Concerned about having a riot in the city centre, the police then started to drive the Asian youth back up towards Manningham.
In Manningham, a predominantly Asian area of the city, the two sides squared up, and very quickly it turned into a full-scale riot.
In those early moments, you know, I think we were quite frightened, really. We thought the police were not going to be able to hold the line, and the missiles were starting to sort of go over the top of the police and amongst us.
I was in the heart of it. I could see the bricks flying over police lines. I could see petrol bombs going off. I could see cars being rolled in. Everything.
Word spread, and within hours, Asian kids from all over the north were driving to Bradford to join the action. West Yorkshire Police had to call in reinforcements from 8 different forces.
From some of the officers that I observed, most of them, they were probably getting the same sort of feeling as journalists were. Clearly, their adrenaline was running as well.
As night fell, the rioters' tactics grew increasingly sophisticated.
What is happening now is that the police in the front line are being blinded by powerful lights, so they cannot see the missiles being thrown at them.
This mountain of rubble is all that's left of a local successful BMW dealership. The rioters attacked the showroom, liberated the BMWs, and set fire to them to push them into the lines of police and to create barricades across the road.
The problems at Inglewood High go much deeper than today's riot. Christina Gonzalez has the story.
They can do what they want to do, we can't do.
Just because it's a Mexican relation, they think they're going to f*** around with us. No, that's not right.
Now get up there! You're the one that started it!
No one knows exactly who started it, but this is how a Cinco de Mayo celebration ended up today at Inglewood High School.
The black kids decided to do a payback.
They don't want to hit us first.
Well, people were getting hit with bats, bottles.
And they just started saying black power, so they start hitting us, so we start hitting them back.
School officials canceled classes, dismissed students, and called Inglewood police.
Like Oldham, Burnley has a growing Asian population. Gangs of white and Asian youth took to the streets.
It's really frightened. It seemed like, you know, a war going on, you know.
Absolutely, it was terrible, absolutely frightening.
By Sunday, word had got out and more white guys poured in wanting a piece of the action.
So then we made our way back to Burnley Town Centre and tried to get into the Asian area where 200 Asians were waiting for us.
She was trying to take me home on 13th Street. They tried to kill us. We didn't do anything to the people down there. They had me about 50 of them running backwards.
A similar situation for this guy who suffered minor cuts when protesters broke his windows. And this man cried with relief when he managed to get away from the rowdy crowd.
That's the sound of police firing shotguns with rubber bullets and bean bags into the crowd at Washington Park in Over the Rhine.
Trash cans, vendors' cards, whatever they can pick up, they throw, smashing dozens of windows. This truck driver found himself a target. Protesters jump in the passenger side, beat him, and pull him to the ground.
They tried to take off the truck, and I tried to stop them.
You'd think there was a big party downtown.
But they quickly find new outlets for their rage. A local store is targeted.
Because they can't imagine that for themselves, they also can't imagine that others behave that way. But this is a failure of imagination.
Then there's Canada's oldest experiment in racial diversity. That is to say, relations between whites and Aboriginals. Now, this must be a very strong relationship indeed, because it goes back the farthest. And if diversity is strength, this would be mighty, mighty strong. Well, it was even news in America when Indians took over the town of Caledonia, Ontario, and chased out all the white people. Now, Maclean's magazine warns of more in an article of December 27th of 2006. They say, quote, Canada should brace for more dramatic displays of Aboriginal defiance in 2007, warn Native leaders, who say that the First Nations frustration that boiled over in a small Ontario town this year may well be the tipping point for decades of simmering Aboriginal anger. Simmering Aboriginal anger. Decades of it. I guess it must be another strength that somehow went wrong. On the very day of the Maclean's article, you know what the Mohawk Nation News says? I don't suspect you read that too often, but what they said was, quote, I'll quote again, "Don't get any ideas that we'll become Canadians. No way. We can and will handle our own affairs, so get out of our way while the going is good. Canada, you know, everything belongs to us, and we're getting it all back." Ladies and gentlemen, let's face the facts squarely. The racial diversity in Canada, just as it is in the United States, is an ordeal. If it were a strength, non-whites wouldn't set up countless groups to promote their interests. If it were a strength, no one would need diversity managers, sensitivity training. If it were a strength, you wouldn't need commissions, tribunals, councils to solve the problems it creates. And just take a look around the world. Wherever people are killing each other most diligently, they're killing each other because of diversity. Whether it's religion, race, language, that is why people are at each other's throats. Now, diversity, therefore, of the kind that Canada is promoting is one of the most obviously divisive forces on the planet. How anyone can consider it a strength, I don't know.
Nobody can predict the future. All you can do is to point out to people what the facts are and let them, by political means, work out some sort of compromise.
How do you work out that compromise when you have so many different religious systems, social systems, economic systems, political systems?
In trying to work out the compromise, it's very important to recognize the diversity of people. And the question is, how do you deal with a world in which there is so much diversity? The simple answer is, we will have the greatest success if the diversity is spatially isolated to a considerable extent. That is, if you get inside of one nation equal proportions of all the world's ethnic groups, all the world's religions, you will have such a mixture that there'll be nothing but internal warfare, and it'll be absolutely dreadful. Whereas if we have, say, the Christians in one area, predominantly Christians, in another area, predominantly Muslims, they have different standards. They have different ways of approaching things, but they can manage as long as they've got a barrier between them, which is somewhat permeable, but still a barrier. Then they can manage. Whereas if you put them inside of a same nation, as we see in India today, then you're going to have terrible conflicts and a lot of violence and loss of life.
Do you support a segregated world rather than an integrated world?
Segregated by nations, not by neighborhoods within a nation. See, that's a different thing. It's the same word, segregation, but if we segregate by nations, then the peace is possible.
Turkispeppar. Vad säger du? Vad säger du, turkläppar? Vad säger du, turkläppar till? Va? Nej, det har jag inte gjort. Din lilla rasist. Jag är fan inte rasist. Det var tjejerna här jag sa turkläppar till. Var ska den redan gå? Rattarna är snart färdig. Hvad skete min mave knude mig ikke nu for helvede, gul fuld? Du ved ikke, hvad du taler om, og nu du hylder. Hvad fanden snakker du om? Jul? Gulfuld? Gulfuld? Hvad?